They said Friday night these lights are bright, and they're right. The late Richard D. Cudahy served for over 35 years on the United States Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit. In that time, he earned a national reputation for careful and thoughtful opinions and produced a startling array of equally thoughtful scholarly articles and speeches. One particular interest of Judge Cudahy's was administrative law, which is, as you may know, sometimes dry, but always important. He showed a keen grasp of legal doctrine and of real-world effects of law, and brought his values of fairness and transparency and sound public policy to his work in that field. Judge Cudahy has been honored. This is the 11th year of the award for the Richard D. Cudahy Writing competition on regulatory and administrative law. The judges this year for this competition were former law clerks of Judge Cudahy's, Professor Jack Bierman of the Boston University Law School, Jeff Keeney of Hill and Keeney here in Washington, the Honorable Paul Etkin of the Southern District of New York, Professor Amy Widman of the National Center for Access to Justice at Fordham University, Allison Zeev, the Director of Public Citizens Litigation Group, and myself. The award brings both honor and cash in two categories, for students and for attorneys. It was very competitive in both. The student winner this year was James Denison. I'd ask Jim to stand. Jim has just graduated. Jim just graduated from the University of Virginia Law School. As you can see, the title here is a little dry. A cost-benefit analysis based interpretation of Section 115C of the Clean Air Act. But it's important, it's timely, and it's persuasive, and I want to tell you just briefly why. Bear with me a moment. Do you worry about man-made climate change? Do any of you see how challenging it might be to reach international agreements to reduce greenhouse gases? And do you worry about the willingness of Congress to enact statutory solutions? If your answers to those questions are yes, then you want to read Jim's paper, because what he developed is a theory that the Clean Air Act already provides authority for a future administration, one that is concerned about climate change, to act to reduce greenhouse gas emissions based on a comparison of costs and benefits on a global level of cooperation. It's an important paper, and we were delighted among the stiff competition to honor Jim's paper, which is published in the University of Virginia Law Review. The winner in the attorney category was Professor Kate Shaw of the Cardozo Law School. I'd like to ask Professor Shaw to stand, and we can honor her. The title of Kate's article is a little easier to follow in terms of Beyond the Bully Pulpit, Presidential Speech in the Courts. Professor Shaw brings singular qualifications to talk about that subject. She had, after a stellar record at Northwestern University Law School, she clerked for Judge Richard Posner and then Justice Stevens, joined Barack Obama first in the campaign, then in the transition team, and then in the White House counsel's office. And then began an academic career several years ago at Cardozo that is off to a great start. I should also say that she is a commentator on law and constitutional issues for ABC, and my wife, Professor Inge van der Kruijse, tells her students to follow Professor Shaw on Twitter. It's worth doing. Professor Shaw's article on presidential speech is not only about Twitter, or even mainly about Twitter. It was a project that began before the last presidential election. But Professor Shaw undertook a careful analysis both of different types of presidential speech, from formal speeches and executive orders to tweets and responses to hecklers off the cuff in speeches. She also undertook a careful analysis of the different ways these types of statements may be relevant for courts that must interpret or judge the validity of different types of executive action. that I mention this article seems timely. This includes challenges based on motive or intent, where such things are relevant in constitutional challenges to executive action. Given the issues the courts are facing now, I don't think I need to say more about its relevance. Please join me once more in appreciation for both winners, Professor Kate Shaw and Jim Denison. And just a final word of thanks to Judge Cudahy's family and to the group of his law clerks for their support for both ACS and the writing competition. Judge Cudahy devoted his career to the rule of law and to fair and humane public policy, and through this competition and these awards, we hope to honor his legacy and encourage others to carry it on. Thank you very much.